Guys, this is the little gnome that we're going to create today. I'm going to give you all the supplies that you need listed in the description below, along with the pattern. Just download it and all the supplies are listed there. Okay, we're going to get started by cutting out our faux fur. We're going to start with our black faux fur, and this is going to be to create his head. We are going to cut 4 of these little triangles out. The smaller ones, 4 of them, and then we're going to cut one of the one with the point. And the one with the point is going to give the peak for his face. For the hair coming down on his face. And so you just cut one of those, and we're just going to cut behind the faux fur only, not through the faux fur, because you want to have a nice edge on your faux fur when you get done cutting it out. After you cut it out, we're just going to go ahead and take them all, and we're just going to clean them up. We're just going to take our comb and comb through and clean them all up. All right, now we're going to go ahead and start his head. We're going to take some craft foam. We're going to cut the tip off of a 70mm ornament, and we're going to mark it at 3 inches across. Now, this is going to be the 3 inches for the face. So when you're messing with the craft foam, you want to make sure that the part for the face is very smooth. The rest of it's going to be covered up with his hair, but we really need to try to get this smooth. And we are going to glue it to the edge of the ornament, leaving ½ an inch hanging over the edge. So we're going to go up ½ an inch and go all the way around, roll it around there until it's completely sealed up. And this is going to be the part in the 3-inch area is his face, and that's the part that we need to make sure we keep smooth. So try not to put too much glue on the very front part of it. Okay, once we get that put together, we're going to cut little 1/4-inch strips. Now, don't go bigger than 1/4 of an inch or you will see them through the hairline. So just go 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And then we're going to take a heat source to kind of mold that craft foam around that ornament. And I'm using a embossing gun. You can use a blow dryer or whatever, but you do want to get it heated up so that when you stretch it around to glue it down, it does go flush. Just really concentrate on that 3-inch area in the front because we need that to be smooth. Just keep heating it up, and it'll keep forming towards the ball of the ornament. Just get it all glued in all the way around. Just keep going till you have it completely sealed in. Okay, now that we have that all sealed in, we're going to attach the hair, and we are going to glue it at the peak right in the center of the ball, and we are going to glue it down to where we have 1/4 of an inch still remaining on the craft foam, and we are going to glue all the way around, leaving the 3-inch area open in the front for his face. So keep gluing those down until you have them all 4 glued in there well. And just make sure if you have to go back in there and add a little bit more glue to make sure that it's secured, because we are going to comb through it and we want to make sure that that does not come off. Just try to get that towards the center. Mainly pay attention to the 1/4-inch edge of the craft foam, because you can overlap some of this hair. It doesn't hurt anything. Just make sure that you're consistent all the way around. And leaving that 3-inch gap open in the middle for his face. Then we're going to come back in after we get all those glued in, and we're going to glue the peak for his face with the last triangle. And we're going to make sure that we put that peak probably about ½ inch up from the edge. And then just make sure when you glue that one in last that you have it completely sealed up so you don't see any of those lines that you did slits on the front. Okay, we're going to comb through this just to make sure all the hair is going one way. And then we're going to come back in with our little triangle piece. We're going to add our triangle about ½ inch up. And then just make sure when you pull it back that you've covered up all those little areas that you have those little slits. Even if you have to glue some of the hairs to the craft foam, do that. But just make sure every bit of that is covered up, because you don't want to see any of those little slits that you cut. And then we're going to just comb it all back. And then I'm going to mix some water with about ½ teaspoon of Elmer's glue. And then we are going to rub this over his hair just to make his hair stay still. It's kind of like adding gel to his hair. You can use, I'm just using regular Elmer's glue. You can use a matte colored like Mod Podge if you don't want any little gloss to it, but I thought it kind of looked good, like it had a little bit of gel. But make sure that you just get all the hair off of his face before you glue it, because once you glue it, it's going to stay where it is. Just go rub it all the way over around his hair, just in the same direction, and then you're going to have to let that dry. Okay, after that dries, we're going to come back in and we're going to build his face. And I've given you the file for his face. You can use these eyes or any eyes you want to. I'm just doing a layering, and I've included an SVG file for it if you have a cutting machine that can cut it out. Otherwise, you can cut it out by hand. It's really easy. Either way, it's not really that difficult to do. Just going to layer it, the white on the black, and then a little circle for the eyeball. And then we're going to put some eyebrows. And you can make him scarier if you want to add scarier eyes. I just kind of wanted him to be a little bit on the cuter side. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and attach it to his face. Just put a little bit of glue right there and attach it. And then on the eyebrows, when you put those on, you're only going to use a little bit of glue, and you only really get one chance to put those on. So if you're not comfortable putting them on with hot glue, you might use an Elmer's glue or something like that. But just kind of really be careful. If you have, I tried it with the tweezers, I couldn't get it to hold still. So just use your hand. Just put them where you want to, and then just add just a little bit of glue. I just kind of rubbed my glue gun on it a little bit. I didn't add a lot of glue, and then just place it on there. It's really not hard. And then do the same thing for the opposite side. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and build his body, and I am taking a 4.5-inch pool noodle and a 4.5 by 18-inch strip of white fabric, and I'm using 18 inches so that you roll it up really good and you won't see the red through the fabric. If you're using a really thick white, you may not need as much, but I'm using 18 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead and build his pants, cut out 2 of each of the patterns, and we are just going to overlap them and glue the top parts together, only at the top part only right now. And that's going to be the very front of his pants and the back of his pants. Then we're going to open those up, and then we are going to glue down the legs and then into the inseam. Just make sure your fabrics are facing, and then just glue down one side. And if you have a sewing machine, you can sew this as well. This pattern's set up for sewing as well, with about 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then go ahead and pull the inseam open and then glue it down. Okay, and then while that's drying, we're going to go ahead and build his legs. And I'm taking a 1/4 inch by 4.5 inch sticks, and I'm taking 2 corks that I drilled a hole in with a drill, and I'm just sticking them together. And then you're going to push them all the way down to the end, and then pull the one up in the middle a little bit, and put a little glue on there because you want to make sure that they're glued together. Just kind of line them up and get them even. And then we're going to go ahead and attach it to the noodle, and I'm just putting it right in the center of the noodle on both sides. There was no weight distribution issue with this gnome. He balanced out really well. So just push those on in there, and then we're going to go back in and we're going to glue them in. And then I came back in with a little bit of duct tape just to make sure that it was secured to the noodle a little bit better. And there's no rhyme or reason how much duct tape to use. Just get enough on there to really hold those legs in place if they were to come unglued, which they're probably not. But I just want a little bit of extra security on them, just in case somebody were to tug on them. I just cut them into little slits and just glued, and then just taped them on. And all this is going to be covered up by the pants, so it really doesn't matter how much tape you use, because you're not going to see it anyways. And I was going to tell you too, if you couldn't find a noodle at the Dollar Tree, Amazon sells some noodles. They may be just a little bit bigger than this. If you do use a noodle that's a little bit bigger, just to get a little bit bigger ornament ball and just increase your pattern just a little bit. You can just scale it up a little bit when you're printing it. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take the leg, and we are going to fold up the legs and do a nice hem on them. And you only have to go up once because you're not going to see it from the other side. Going up about 1/4 of an inch, and then we're just going to glue that in. And just go all the way around, make sure it's secured good. Okay, after we get that all glued in, then we're going to turn them right side out. And then we're going to attach them to our gnome. And there's not a back and a front on these. They're exactly the same. So don't worry about trying to figure out which is the back and which is the front. There's not one. So go ahead and slip it right over the legs and then slide it up over his body. And then we are going to leave about 1/2 of an inch at the bottom. The cork won't come through the pants all the way. You're going to leave about 1/2 inch there so that when we put our shoes, his pants kind of gather up a little bit at the bottom. Then we're going to go ahead and add our glue all the way around just to make sure it's secured good. All right, now we're going to go ahead and add a cummerbund. It's a 1 inch by 8 inch strip. Just put it down the center, glue it on, and then go all the way around it and glue it to the back. I just thought it added a little bit more elegance to his little outfit here. And it'll show the different, you'll be able to see it under his beard. You're not going to see his shirt very well, but you will see the little cummerbund. Okay, after you get that all glued in, then we're going to move to the cape. And we are going to do a 2-sided cape so that when it's opened up in the front, you can see a color inside. We're taking 2 strips of fabric that are 15 inches by 6 inches. And we are gluing on both the short sides and one of the long side because we are going to turn this right side out. That way it'll look like it's been sewn and it'll be a 2-sided cape. And then we are going to do the collar the same way. We're going to take 2 pieces of fabric that are 6.5 inches by 2 3/4 inches for the cape, and we are going to go glue down 2 short sides and 1 long side. Let that dry real good. Then we're going to turn those right side out. And then I'm just taking my scissors and cutting the corners at a diagonal, and that way the points of them come out a little bit better. Just turn it right side out and do the same thing with the cape collar. And then I am taking these to my ironing board and I am going to iron them flat. Now once you iron them, let them dry before you start messing with them because that glue will get hot and open up again, but it does make a nice seam for it and you can iron it. Do the same thing with the collar. Turn it right side out and we're going to go iron it as well. All right, now we're moving on to the beard, and I'm cutting a 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch beard. Just go around, draw it, and then go behind the faux fur only and cut that thing out. Do not cut through the faux fur, just behind the faux fur only. And then take your comb and go ahead and get all the excess fur off of it. All right, now we're going to go ahead and take our cape after we've ironed it, and we are going to do a casing at the top to gather it so we can put it onto our gnome. And we are going to make 1/4 inch stitches all the way around. And we are going to start at the 1/2 inch mark on both, and then we're going to finish at a 1/2 inch mark on the opposite side as well. So go ahead and get that casing sewn in, and then we are going to gather it. And then when we put it on the gnome, we're going to put it on there, and then we're going to look at the beard first because we do want the beard to overlap it. So before you start gathering it completely and tying it off, we're going to make sure that our beard is going to cover it. I'm going to wrap it around. Make sure it's in the center. Wrap it around. I'm going to take 2 pins, mark where my beard ends on both sides. And then I'm going to take a ribbon and I'm going to come around the edge there and I am going to cut it off, and I am going to cut it where it's about, say, a 1/2 inch on each side on the inside part of where the beard is, and then just cut that off to size. And that's how we're going to attach that to our cape, and that's how you'll know what size your cape needs to be. Okay, so go ahead and take that piece of fabric, that piece of ribbon, and we are going to mark it in the center. And then we're going to gather that little cape up to glue it onto that strip of ribbon. And that'll give it a nice finished edge as well. Go ahead and tie that off. Get it even, make sure it's straight and not flared out at all. So you want to kind of make sure that it is straight and that the gathers are kind of even. And then we're going to glue that to our ribbon. I'm just kind of pinning mine along the way just to make sure that it stays on before I get it glued in good. Okay, and I'm just starting at one side, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that side and then start gluing it in. But make sure it is glued good to that ribbon, because when we put it on him, you do not want to see the unfinished edge of your fabric. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and attach him. I went ahead and pulled my pins out. Just make sure that it's centered, that you have the equal amount in the center open, and go ahead and glue it in. I just did glued both sides, and then I'm going back in and I'm going to add my glue around the edge on the inside part. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and attach my beard over the top of that, and that way it'll close that edge of that fabric up there at the top as well. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing with this collar. I am going to gather it up. Now, it's not going to be gathered as much, just a little bit, because we want it to stand up a little bit more. But we're doing it the same way. We're starting at about a 1/2 inch on one side, doing 1/4 inch stitches, and ending at a 1/2 inch on the opposite side. And I'm going to take a piece of ribbon, and I'm going back probably about a 1/2 inch on both sides. I think my ribbon ended up being 4.5 inches, and that's what I'm going to glue on there to make the cape, the collar. And then just glue the collar to the ribbon as well. And then gather it up to where it fits onto that ribbon. Once you get that tied off, then you can go ahead and glue it in. Just kind of get your pleats pretty even. And then I'm just attaching the glue on one end and then gluing it all the way around. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and attach his head. And then we're going to trim the back of his hair off, because you're not going to see that under the collar, because we want to glue that collar to his cape, not to his hair. So go ahead and take that off. And leave about a 1/2 inch of hair on both sides and just trim off the back. And if you want to put a little bit of glue underneath that hair just to hold it down a little bit better, you can. Want to go ahead and glue his head to his body right now, you can do that as well. We're going to take the collar, put it around there. We're going to probably end about 1/2 inch on each side. Just pull his hair forward a little bit, and we are going to glue it to his cape. And then we're going to open it up and glue around. And we are attaching it to the cape, not to his hair. Just hold it in good. Make sure that that's glued in really well, because you do want that to stay standing up good. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to attach his nose. You're just going to spread his hair out a little bit in the center, put a little dollop of glue right there, and then put his nose on. All right, now we're going to go ahead and do his fangs. I'm just cutting off about a 1/2 inch piece of wire so I can put it up into the noodle. I'm rolling up a pea-size piece of white Sculpey clay. I'm rolling it out, then I'm putting my finger towards the end and rolling just the point out. Now we are going to bend this a little bit just so that we can get it into his beard, and it does come through the beard a little bit. So just bend that top back just a little bit, and we're going to attach our wire in there. And that's what's going to attach it. And then go ahead and squeeze it on there good because you want that to stay on there. And then do the same thing for the other. Then we're going to bake it at 250 degrees for 12 minutes. Okay, go ahead and add your Pinewood Derby weights to your shoes. I painted my shoes with a matte black. You can do whatever you want to with them. I did not make a pattern for these shoes because I am going to cover it up with the little bat. So go ahead and put your weights in there. And then I suggest going ahead and putting them on your gnome. And just to make sure that you do not have any weight issues, that he will stand up with just that amount of weight. If he doesn't, then you need to come back in and add a little bit more weight. I'm just using 2 little 1/2 inch pieces of the weights, but just test it before you glue the bottom edge on. Okay, mine stood up no problem, so that's all I'm going to add to that one. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and turn them over, and I'm going to attach the bottom part just to close those in and make sure that that stays in good. And then we're going to put a nice trimmed edge around the edge just to finish off the shoe so you don't see the opening between the shoe and the bottom. So go ahead and glue that bottom onto both of them. And then we're going to add a strip around there. Go all the way around, kind of pulling it snug as you're doing it. And then we're going to glue that in. And I'm only going to do this for one shoe to show you right now and do the other shoe exactly like this one. And then I'm going to take one of those bats that I cut out. And if you don't want to cut out a bat, you can put anything you want. I'm just trying to cover up the little bow on the Dollar Tree shoes. So just take the bat, glue him onto the face of it. And then do the same thing for the opposite shoe. Now we're going to go ahead and attach him to our gnome. We're just going to put a dollop of glue into each shoe. And then put some glue in the other one, and go ahead and put some glue to the back of the shoe too. I put it on his leg instead, but go ahead and do it into the shoe. And just make sure he stands up good and just pull his pants legs back down. Now I'm going to take a little bit of red paint, and I'm going to paint his fangs with a little bit of red on the tips to make it look like blood. Just kind of randomly paint them on there, and then let them dry. Okay, once they dry, I'm going to open up where I'm going to put them, and I'm going to take an X-Acto knife, just poke a hole in it all the way through the noodle, and then I'm going to take that wire and with the fang on it and stick it all the way in there just to make sure that you get them where you want to, and then we're going to glue them in. So go ahead and do the same thing for the other one. Just poke a hole in there with your X-Acto knife, and then we will glue them in after we make sure we got them exactly like we want them. Okay, now you got them like you want them. Go ahead and pull it out. Keep your finger where you put it in there so you can still find it, and glue those in. All right, there you have it. It's a cute little vampire gnome. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to see future videos, hit subscribe. If you want to be notified when I have another video, hit the bell. Thanks for watching.